Greetings, friends. Welcome once again to Rick's Garage. What I'm continuing to work on here is this old Chevy S10 that belongs to a very dear friend of mine. I'm just kind of finishing it up now. I'm hoping to get it back to him in the next day or so. What I did, if you're familiar with the project, I've shown different videos here and there. I had to replace much of the floor. This part here is a new floor pan. I've got the old mat back in. A lot of this is new welded sheet metal in, and on the other side I did a lot of welding. I replaced the rear cab corner. This is a new rocker panel that's been welded in. I put in a new fender. I replaced the door hinge pins. And so now I'm in the process of putting it all back together so I can give this guy back his truck. I've had it for several months now. One of the things I've run into a little problem with are these little strips that hold the floor mat in place. What happened was the screws, let me pull this up. The screws, I don't know if you can see it, let me get it under the light. The screws are completely dissolved. I couldn't unscrew them, so I had to kind of pry it off, and that caused some of the rotted metal to come up with the screw. Some of the screws broke, and so now they're stuck in there, and I've got to try to get them out so I can put these back in. Now I believe the reason the floor in the truck rotted out in the first place is because of this material that was under the mat. What happened, once you got a small hole in the floor, this material absorbed all the water, held the water under the mat, and rotted the floor out. The floor did not rot from the bottom up. The engine over the years has done a good job of leaking oil, so the bottom of the floor was pretty well protected with oil. The floor actually rotted from the top down because this stuff held water. So I pulled all this stuff off the mat and put the mat back in. Might make the truck a little more noisy, I don't know, but this is the reason that the floor, I believe, rotted out, is because of this insulation stuff. Now, as I said before, there was pretty much nothing to unscrew here. The heads were pretty well obliterated, so I just had to pry these off, and in some cases I broke these screws, in other cases the pieces of rotted metal came up with the screws. So this is how I got these out. These were pretty well stuck in there. So as you just saw, I took the Dremel and cut the screw off flush. So now that you've got the thing zipped off with any metal that's there, you got to punch it out, and it still will not budge. It's so rusted in there. So what you got to do is take your handy heat gun. This is my wife's heat gun. She doesn't know I have it. And heat the plastic up. Not so much that you're going to melt it, but get it good and warm with the heat gun. You can tell when it's starting to melt because it gets really shiny. You don't want to go beyond that point where it gets really shiny. See, it's starting to get a little shiny now. I tried to punch this out before and I could not budge it. So now they got this thing good and warm. It was about a minute. Now I'm going to see if I can get this thing to punch out. Oh, it's moving very easily. That's going to come right out of there. I'm going to prop it up on something. I'll use one of my wrenches. Yep, it's out. And I got the screw out. So that's how you deal with these. Just zip them off flush, heat up the plastic with your heat gun, and then punch the old screws out. You can see how rusted these screws were. So I'm going to get the rest of these out, and then I can start reinstalling this thing. So I want to thank you once again for watching Rick's Garage. Before I go, I will post 2 videos to your left. Feel free to click on them should you find one or the other of interest. And to your right will be a picture of my avatar, as always, in the form of my trusty German Shepherd. By all means, feel free to click on that should you wish to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you all very, very soon.